Hi, my name is Siddharth, and today I'm going to share a little story about my interesting friend called Shiva. So Shiva is this young, ambitious kid that I met when I was 16. So during my Cognizance Welfare Initiative time, I organized these little book drives, and we were trying to build infrastructure for all these young little kids, and we were trying to make an impact. We were really trying to drive a change. And during that time, we have spent countless amount of money, resources, energy into trying to help these kids. And Shiva was one of the guys who really stood out because he was there with us throughout the very, very, very foundation time. So yeah, we spent 3 months where we've organized these infrastructures in their schools, in their governments and everything. And we were very happy, we were very proud when that happened. But little did we get to know that after a good 2 to 3 months, Shiva dropped out of the school. So that's when I realized that maybe sometimes what we might think that can actually make an impact and what actually happens in real world are like two different things. And that's when I started to understand that if a small non-profit like Cognizance Welfare Initiative wasn't able to drive a sustainable change by addressing a different problem, then what about all these major corporations who are spending like millions and billions of dollars for what? Are they even trying to address the right problem or are they not? So that's what got me thinking, and this is when I started to really hit the sheets. And this is what I was able to see that, I started to do a bit of digging, what is the number of impact that people are actually expending and how much of it is actually being wasted. And so yeah, this is the little Venn diagram that I was able to orchestrate. And yeah, so apparently almost $750 billion of global funding is being implemented by all these corporations. And out of that, 25% is actually being wasted. And yeah, $187.5 billion is just going down the drain. So this is where, as you can see, one of the three examples that I can actually give is people are planting trees, right? And they spend so much money on it, but 90% of them actually die within the first year. And again, the second is a clear example of Shiva's, which is people are organizing all these different schools and colleges, but then the classrooms are empty. And this is the relentless drive that we've been trying to see, but then obviously most of the climate initiatives are being negligible on the long-term impact. So yeah, I mean, this got me thinking, well, how do we actually measure an impact if this were to be the case, right? So this is where I started to do, again, a bit of research, and I understood that there's this very leading researcher, right, and a Nobel laureate called Bjorn Lomborg, who actually asked this question: what amount of money is actually required to drive a change? And so he tried to answer this one major question, which is, if we had $75 billion to spend to improve the world, where would we get the highest return on investment? For example, for every dollar spent, what is the maximum amount of ROI can we actually get? And yeah, and he used 40 different challenges, and he was able to bring out to 16 major issues. And here's when, again, I see everything through in a very game-centric way. And I started to see through things in a game theory perspective. And here's a little bit of schema that I was able to come up of, which is, so every investment needs to be done smartly. And a lot of people, a lot of corporations do it very randomly. And if we look at it from a game theory's lens, right? So if both the companies were to have a smart strategy to invest, then company A and company B, then they can actually maximize on profits and they can actually bring the change, which is a win-win scenario. And if one company plays smart and the other company doesn't really care and does it randomly, then you have win and lose scenario. But if both companies are making random investments to actually drive a change, then the actual impact cannot be quantified. Hence, yeah, so this is one little payoff matrix that actually encumbers the tiny detail of how can we actually create a proper change. So what makes an investment smart? Because we've been talking about smartness for a while now, but what exactly makes an investment smart? So, and the answer is deriving it from the impact we actually create. So this is the impact formula that I was able to theorize with my really good friend Vishal Sunkara. And so this is basically a corporate impact performance, CIP formula, equals to E multiplied by B multiplied by 10 to the power of 2 divided by C. So E means effective score, B means benefit multiplier, and 10 to the power of 2 is a numerical. This simplifies the math. And then we have C, which is a constant. So effectiveness score is basically measuring effectiveness score of a company in a fiscal year in a weighted scale. And I'll explain a bit more detail. So a company's effectiveness score can actually be assessed by addressing, in 3 different pool of, enterprises: large, medium, and small. So, and the way that we evaluate is basically by the number of projects that has been completed in a financial or a fiscal year, and the total amount of beneficiaries, like how many people have actually benefited from it. And then we derive a 1 to 5 weighted scale. So again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, obviously, where 1 being very little impact and 5 being the max impact. And here we have the benefit multiplier. And the benefit multiplier is basically the ROI for every dollar again spent. How much are we actually getting return on investment for it? And again, like I mentioned before, we have taken inspiration from Dr. Bjorn Lomborg's, the research of Copenhagen statistics on how exactly we're able to derive this. And we have pegged it to individualistic, every entity's impact when they start implementing their funds. And again, multiplier at its essence means, benefit multiplier, total ROI by the total cost that is spent by a company. All right, and then the last variable is C, the amount of companies spending across all CSR projects in a single fiscal year or the financial year. And this is one example that we can actually go and explain what exactly is happening in the mid-market manufacturing, right? One is the effectiveness score of E, again, which I mentioned, right? 2 out of 5, which is not great when we chip into the formula. And then we see the benefit coming out as 8 and the impact score coming as 2. Whereas smart factory systems, on the other hand, 5 by 5, 94, and then 10 impact score for this exact same funding, when both of them have deployed the exact same money. And now we have tried to apply the formula, and we tried to bring the similar change. And here we have actually done a bit of piloting, right, with a company called Ethos, where SLG hospitals were able to drive change, right, on 2023. 43,000 was actually being utilized, right? EBC constants, Katria Hotels and Finamp. And as you can see, the impact performance on 2023 versus 2024 was like on the scale SLG was 3, it became 6, Katria was 5, it became 7, and Finamp was 1, and it became 8. And these are some of the corporate examples that we're able to see. So drawing the similar parallels in mind, right? So we can actually quantify impact too. It is not that hard to quantify an impact. And this shows the larger picture of what exactly can be done if people were to use their funds meticulously to implement and drive change. And we can actually, reclaim up to $150 billion in a single year. And that is like twice than what Dr. Bjorn Lomborg has mentioned, that all we need is $75 billion, dollars. So yeah, and I genuinely feel like the companies which actually take a bit of nuances and actually move forward are the ones who can actually lead the future. So yeah, thank you so much, guys.